Gentlemen, there's a lot we get to talk about today, but we're obviously going to talk about the biggest story in hockey right now. And as earlier today, the Montreal Canadiens, they've saved my soul because they have finally fired Dom Ducharme. And the interim head coach, I was fascinated because you can't do it to Burroughs. You can't make it Richardson because he's not French, and you've got that rule. It's Marty St. Louis as the interim for this season. So I think before we go too deep into Marty St. Louis, because that's going to break Mike, the Rangers fan here. Let's just rewind a bit and saw what led up to the firing. We know the Canadiens have 8 wins this year. It's not looking good. I think it's 30 regulation losses, then 7 in overtime. Not great at all. They lose yesterday to the New Jersey Devils 7-1. The Devils, who I believe were on a 7-game losing streak. They didn't have Blackwood. They didn't have Hughes. The Canadiens, who have only had this thing of we had some rest as opposed to when they played in January again after COVID. Guys had more time to relax, back from vacation, back from Mexico. And they got stomped 7-1. That loss felt a bit different from the rest of them. And just like that, Dom Ducharme is finally gone. Before we send it to Mike, because I feel like he wants to just tell about, because we were playing NHL after the second period because I wasn't watching the third. Just give him his reaction and me seeing all the goals as they popped up in my notification feed. Alex, after that New Jersey game, were you thinking that was it?
I mean, it had to be it at some point. And I think, and I don't think it's just that one game that led me to say, wow, that's it. I think it was, I don't remember who originally tweeted it, but it was going around 33 goals in 5 games, 33 goals allowed in 5 games.
I think that was Renaud Lavoie who was tweeting that about.
Like, that's bad.
Adam didn't appreciate when I echoed that tweet to him yesterday.
I'm sure I wasn't.
Like, that's got to be like, this is done. Like, you've lost the room. Something's wrong. Like, there's injuries and there's the COVID issue that was in December, but that's almost inexcusable. Like, that is inexcusable.
I'm almost impressed he lasted this long this year.
I know, right? It felt like I made an example in my video where I'm pretty sure I think it was the year after they won the Cup in '93, or maybe even the year after, that Jacques Demers started the year like 0-5 and he got fired for Mario Tremblay. And then was obviously look what happened with Tremblay and Watt, ruined the franchise for a decade more to now. And Dom Ducharme just got so much leeway. A part of it seems to be was the financial side of it. He's just in the first year of a 3-year deal that pays him around $1.7 million. We know Claude Julien's $5 million is being paid for this year. So it's basically, it's 6.7 in cap. Not in cap, sorry, but in dead money going to coaches, not to coach for you. And the Canadiens haven't had fans in the stands consistently for years now. So there's a financial side to it.
That's Mike, almost as much as the Arizona Coyotes are playing at ASU.
That was a good tweet of yours, Alex. That was a good tweet of yours.
I had to repeat it on the show.
You got to sell a year to college students to pay one coach. Mike, do you want to give your perspective as you and I were playing Chell yesterday and I refused to watch the third period?
It was so funny. So funny. So we're playing Shell, which means that, and to put into perspective, Adam and I regularly play NHL together, and he's already extremely flustered because the majority of the time I usually win. Although, in all fairness, he played very well yesterday in our final game. But so it just puts into perspective how bad this game was, that he was willing to leave that game where he was flustered by that game to do something less flustering. And NHL with me is not less flustering to him. But every single goal that went in, like, I think what was it, like 5-1, 4-1 when we start playing?
So at the end of the second, when New Jersey had scored to make it 4-1, I texted you saying Chell in 10 minutes. I then walked downstairs, sat on my bed, and before the period had ended, they made it 5-1.
And I didn't know what the score of the game was. I thought it was like 2-0. And I was like, oh, what's the score of the game? And he's like 5-1. I was like, ooh. And then we kind of ignored it because every time his phone rang, it was like the notification of the score. We were just quiet. It was like the Hunger Games, at the end of the competition day, the cannons fire for every person that perished.
Mhm.
That's literally what it was. It was just dead silence as the goals just kept coming.
Brutal.
I want to talk about it.
But
Even though,
at least Brett Kulak scored.
I was very happy about that. For a second, I thought that Paling deflected it, but it turns out it was Brett. So that if they had taken that away, like that was such a. There was this play where Churi Lehkonen had the hand eye and he like batted the puck out the air and he hit the crossbar, and you're like, first off, that is the most Lehkonen play I've ever seen. The guy great chances and hits the post. You love to see it. But it was just Jeff Petrie wasn't great. There was another goal, I forget, it may have been the third one or fourth one, where Jeff Petrie is on the right side and he follows the puck carrier who crosses over to the other side of the ice. Left side of the, let's say, defensive zone, but offensive zone perspective for New Jersey. He follows the puck carrier and then abandons the right side of the ice. And then, boom, a devil comes, scores. I think it may have been McLeod's second goal. And you're just thinking, what's going on here? It was a horrible night for him and Kulak beside Brett's goal. And Petrie's mental game has just been non-existent this year.
It's funny you bring up Jeff Petrie. I was scrolling through Cap Friendly this afternoon. I was definitely not in class. And I saw a trade proposal between Edmonton and Montreal. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, let's see what this is. So it had, I don't remember the details specifically.
Wait, hold on. Who, was it an Oilers or Habs fan that set it up?
Oh man, I'm not sure, but
okay.
I'm not sure, but the trade involved Jeff Petrie going to Edmonton and Tyson Barrie going to Montreal. And as you're describing Jeff Petrie, I'm like, wow, that trade would be horrible because it'd be worse.
You're trading the same type of player. Barry's younger, yeah, but it's your talent. Honestly, first off, I think Barry's a lesser offensive player, to be honest. And it's just you're trading the same type of player for it just doesn't make sense.
And it'd be full circle for Jeff Petrie going back to Edmonton.
That's true, yeah, because he loved it there so much. You know what? He would fit in a lot more there, but then again, they need some defensive help, not offensive help. Anyway. So what happens there is we go today, and there were whispers from French reporters that it looked like Dominic Ducharme was going to go. Then it happened. It actually happened. And what's very interesting is in the press release at the bottom, the last line was, the next head coach will be named later today, which then led to a few hours of pure speculation. You're thinking, which was hilarious. Every name was out there. You saw Babcock. It felt like apparently whatever station Guy Boucher works for, he wasn't part of the panel talking about the firing. So everyone kind of thought, oh no, it's Boucher.
You think they did that on purpose?
Maybe he was, I don't know his normal schedule, but maybe it was just, Boucher's gone. So anyway, but no, it wasn't Guy Boucher. It wasn't Patrick Waugh, which I'm sure he was probably licking his chop. Maybe it's going to be me. It wasn't Alain Vigneault, which people were scared of. It wasn't Claude Julien. It wasn't Pascal Vincent. The interim head coach, who will speak to the media tomorrow at 11:30 a.m., the Hall of Famer, the former Tampa Bay Lightning, the former New York Ranger, I'll never forget 2014, Marty, you son they can't swear. It's Marty St. Louis. I did not see this coming at all. I was blindsided by this decision. Marty?
Marty Tree Trunks.
Marty, man, the original, like, my goodness, look at those calves.
That guy's got legs to just that can.
Yeah, not even just his calves. His thighs are huge.
His thighs are bigger than my entire upper body.
Legit, some cracks and nuts between those legs.
Oh my god, huge.
So you have a short king who will proceed to coach another short king in Coke. Anyway, your guys' initial reaction, and what we'll do is we'll start with Mike because it is the former Ranger. First off, your reaction when you're a very beloved Ranger, beloved player. Great story with Marty St. Louis, the Hall of Famer, undersized player. Really fought to get into the league. First it was Jeff Gordon, now it's Marty St. Louis going to the Habs. How do you feel, Mike?
Like that, no wonder he ended up there because of JG. But also it's I'm happy for him. As upsetting as it is that he's going back home. It's, obviously as a Rangers guy, I didn't get the full Marty St. Louis experience. Marty St. Louis is remembered as a Tampa Bay Lightning. He's always going to be. But, Marty St. Louis scored that Mother's Day goal in the Garden. He was there in that Stanley Cup final where, he was there among legends. Rick Nash got to his Stanley Cup final there. Hank got to his Stanley Cup final there. Marty St. Louis was part of that, and he was a very vital part of the club. So, and I always knew that he had a future in hockey. He had a future in the NHL. I know that he said that he was going to take some time to focus on his family. And he's been retired for how many years now? I think
I'll double check.
He has not played in the league since 2015.
2015. Wow. Okay. I keep thinking it's 2020, but Marty hasn't played for a long time. And he said that he wanted to dedicate his time to his family, and rightfully so. He has some young kids that are growing up. And to my knowledge, he was coaching their Pee Wee AAA team this year.
Yeah.
And now imagine being that minor hockey team. Imagine being on the bench like one game before, and the coach tells you where you're going to be going through at practice, and the next day you find out he's in the NHL, and you're like, okay, anyways. But I'm very happy for Marty. I know, there are certain players that GMs and or notable people in hockey say have a future in the game after the game. Not everyone really has a future in the game, like in managing or in coaching after the game. But Marty's one of those guys. It takes me back to when when Brian Burke said on Spit and Chicklets that he was like, oh, Gabriel Landeskog, he's one of those players. He is going to be a general manager in the NHL one day. And it took me back to how many people said the same thing about Marty St. Louis, about how much he, despite being older, despite being shorter and having a much different route to the NHL, not being the top prospect, he's just one of the boys. So I think it's a great hiring. I really hope it works out for him. I really hope he can help at least maybe not turn the ship around, but at least kind of course correct it, because it's, the bar's a little low right now. And yeah.
Alex, what do you think the first job that Marty St. Louis is going to have? What's his number one priority going for the rest of the season here?
Implementing a system that fits with the future of, or what the future should be of the Montreal Canadiens and in the
immediately plays Cole Caulfield on the fourth line
of Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes, which is a fast offensive team. And I think you'll get that from Marty St. Louis.
By the way, he also apparently won the season around 2019. He was doing some consulting work with the Blue Jackets regarding special teams with John Tortorella back there. I'll never forget when Marty St. Louis retired, by the way, that John Tortorella was at his retirement ceremony, was like, man, he was a bastard to coach. I thought it was really, really funny. But his big thing is, honestly, he's going to have to the development of their young core is going to be so important, aka he needs to be a coach that can understand and really learn how to use Cole Caulfield. That's my big thing is, man, just a bit of trust in the young man. You know what I mean? They need to, and I've talked about this before, the culture of making sure young players are comfortable and aren't afraid to make mistakes.
He's building that confidence, man. Because that's the thing. Cole Caulfield has no confidence being in a bottom six role like this.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's anything, I think just hearing this hiring already, Caulfield must be like, okay, who slowly starts to bring it back up. And I hope that helps a lot. It's like a shock charge to him.
It's, Caulfield fell in his draft. Like he did. He shouldn't have gone 15th. And you can guarantee he fell because of his size. Now, the moment he touched the NHL, he was a superstar. It was incredible how good he was. He comes off winning the Hobey Baker, the World Junior Gold. He was great. And then this season has just been like one goal for Cole Caulfield. That's not enough. That's not. And he can't have.
Which is tough because, I don't want to ruin your parade, but, there was a lot of expectations for him to be the Calder winner, if not at least a Calder finalist.
I had him as the winner. I was like, he'll score 20 goals, no problem. And no, Absolutely not. So get him going. You loan in a chance too. You like to see that guy. A lot to do there. A lot to do there. Marty, please save the team. Please save the team. It's going to take a while. See, here's what's going to be rough for St. Louis, too, is I don't know how much practice time they're going to have because this is when the schedule picks up, too. Yep. You know, February and March are just such a pain for the Habs, as there's so many Canadian teams right now. So,
and that goes into account with what JG and Hughes are going to be thinking. Because to tell you the truth, barring disaster, there's no way that Marty doesn't coach next year. Because it's like Sheldon Keefe. He'll have his time to get in there, implement his own systems, and have a proper training camp and have a roster that looks a little more like what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So right off the bat, I'm telling you, unless something happens like where they're actually even worse or they have the opportunity. I don't even know what free agent coaches are out there right now, but they have the opportunity to scoop up somebody with a much better pedigree. I'm already thinking he's going to be the coach next year.
Give him like a 2-year extension, and then at the end of that, it's like, all right, Mario, let's see what we're doing here.
Like exactly what they did with the Leafs with Sheldon Keefe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to Montreal. I want to talk about something else here regarding the Habs, and then we can move on from there. PK Subban was talking to the media. First off, he had some really good things to say about Carey Price that people should try and look. And naturally, with the sort of change in direction that the Habs are going in right now, he was asked. So this is from John Liu, the tweet. New Jersey Devils Subban invokes Kevin Garnett's anything's possible regarding his future. When asked about a potential return to Montreal as a UFA, he said, "You want to play where you're wanted," says Subban, who appreciates New Jersey trading for him, adding, "Montreal will always be a home for me." I think it was fair to say if Bergevin was in charge, he was never going to come back. But we know since Subban left, I think there's been like videos on his YouTube channel of him like vlogging in Montreal. There's ads about him coming back to the city. His best years were in Montreal. So if you're getting rid of Jeff Petrie and you want to defend, think of it like this. You know who Alexander Romanov was a big fan of growing up?
Okay.
Andrei Markov.
Oh, yeah, I do remember you mentioning that.
Who did PK Subban who won PK Subban and Norris? Andrei Markov. Is it not poetic for then what PK could do is come back to Montreal when the guys who got rid of him are gone, build that trust, make him feel wanted, and then he helps teach the next generation of Canadians defensemen. Now that they seem to be going in a direction where PK Subban and his style of play would have really been wanted, as opposed to the very defensive style they've had for like a decade now.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of benefits off the ice to bringing PK Subban in, but PK Subban is not the PK Subban of 5 years or
3-4 years ago.
3-4 years ago, whenever he got traded out of Montreal. Like, and I don't mean that because of the teams he's played on are bad. I just think his body is not the same body that it was 4 years ago. And that's going to take it. That's taken a toll. Like, it's visibly taken a toll, especially on his back, as we know.
Michael.
I hope if he does, then Marty teaches him to stop slew footing.
That's a very good point.
In all seriousness, no, it would be interesting. It's like coming full circle. I mean, the city of Montreal, PK has such an outstanding legacy with the Habs fan base, because like ultimately, when PK was traded, the fan base was not happy.
Oh,
I mean,
no,
sure, Shea Weber's happy. Shea Weber's Shea Weber, and it both worked out in different ways. But you know, that regime that was leading the Montreal Canadiens is now gone. My question is, how much money are you bringing him in for?
It's not like he can really command like. I wouldn't hate if they gave him like a 2-year deal and gave him like 5. Because obviously he's not making 9 anymore. But if you bring him in on a shorter term deal and, you know, make him be like, PK, you can be a leader here. Obviously, like you're not going to give him like $7 million or that. I don't know who would even give it to him, but
I think 4 is generous.
Really?
I think 4 is generous. I think he's just lost a lot of his mojo. PK has one of the most phenomenal edge work, has some of the most phenomenal edge work I've ever seen in the game, in the sense that it looks really clunky, but it still works. And that's how it's always been. And not to mention that he has a hell of a shot. So I just wonder, what would it be like if he was on a better team? Well, maybe he could command more. I don't know. I think 4 would be a safe bet.
Here's why I say 5. Is beside the right-handed defenseman thing, how difficult it might be bringing free agents to Canada next season, which we know is going to be a problem. No, I don't think PK needs the money, but you have the heart. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
I was going to make a joke. Finish what you were going to say.
No, go ahead. It's just PK. Bring him back.
No, I was going to say I wasn't sure if it was going to be difficult for Canadian teams. Gary Bettman wasn't convincing enough.
The guy, he's a butt. He's such a butt.
You know what, though? That's the thing, though. Do you really think it's going to be that hard?
I mean,
it depends on the market.
Well, I mean, it depends on if an election happens or not.
Okay, you're talking Quebec then. You're not talking.
No, I'm talking on Ontario too.
Okay, Ontario as well.
Ontario's having an election.
I mean, Toronto, Alberta, all those teams are different. Yeah, but I think, the league is starting to move past and start playing. I mean, it's different. I mean, Canada's obviously suffered a lot more than the United States markets have, but I have faith that it'll be better next year.
Hey, man, I'm hoping too. I'm just going off of what's out there.
I do think is more so on what teams are actually. Calgary's not going to be that good next year. Montreal's still not going to be that good next year.
I still think it's going to be hard to bring. I think it's just generally hard. Pre-COVID, what was Brian Burke always said? If you have an 8-team no trade list, it's the 7 Canadian teams and Buffalo. Mm-hmm. I just unless something miraculously has changed, I don't see that changing. We saw it here in Toronto. One of the reasons, other than the fact that he got 3 years, but Zach Bogosian left. One of the reasons was because of the restrictions. That was the rumor. I would believe it. I think we all 3 of us would believe that. It is an issue.
The
of course,
deadline,
and not to mention the whole taxes and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. The deadline is going to be interesting. Maybe if it's better by the summer, but the deadline, getting guys to waive clauses, is probably going to be really difficult. Yeah, we'll get to Calgary a little later because they're pretty. It looks like they're going to maybe make a move, but listen, PK, if you're listening, please come back. Please come back. It was so nice. Come on, teach the young kids. Goalie and that. Love this. Come on, PK. You know you want it, buddy. Come on.
Take the kids out for a night on the town, PK.
Yeah, he knows the spots. Come on.